Hi, my name's Josh, and I wanted to talk about why it is that I live at Sherman Hills and work there and spend time there, and why it is that I moved into the projects in the first place. I moved in about 5 years ago now. It's been 5 years now, and I can tell you that it's all because of God. God is the reason that I live at Sherman Hills, and it's because of His grace. So that's what I want to tell you about. I want to talk about the grace of God that led me to that place and how I've learned more about His grace from that. I think the first way that God has been working at Sherman Hills is even just in the fact that He led me to go there and He gave me the desire to be there. Honestly, most people in Wilkes-Barre wouldn't want to live at Sherman Hills, mostly because of the perception that it has of being a really bad neighborhood and a bad place to live. So the reason that I made that decision that might be seen as unusual was because I believe God called me there. God wanted me to live at Sherman Hills. Now that may seem like a strange thing to say, but it's actually something that an idea that I've been familiar with for most of my life. My parents are missionaries in West Africa. They know that God has called them to be there serving Him, even though it's a really difficult place to live and to work and to raise a family. But the fact that God showed them that's what He wants for them is grace that makes it possible. And I believe God has given me a similar kind of grace. He's called me to live in a place where there are needs instead of comfort, and where there's a lot of desperation and a lot of just a more unhealthy place, a place of spiritual need. A lot of the times people ask me though, aren't you scared to live at Sherman Hills, or isn't that a really hard place to live? And while in a lot of ways it can be uncomfortable and it can be difficult, to be honest, I'm not ever really afraid, and I'm actually I enjoy living there. I'm comfortable and content to live where God has called me to live. So I think that's the second way that God has showed grace to me, is He's given me faith to believe, okay, this is where I belong, this is where He wants me to be, and He's gonna protect me because He wants me to be there. I think that's important. I think as we step out in faith, obeying what God has called us to do, He'll provide courage as well. Now, something that goes along with that is a promise that God has given in the Bible, that Jesus has given in the Bible. Jesus says, go and make disciples in all the nations, baptizing them and teaching them, and I will be with you, even to the end of the age. And that's the third way that I've really seen God show up and be present in my life. That's the third way that I've seen God's grace in my life, is that He is present and acting. God has given me a deeper and much more profound relationship because I've been willing to obey Him, in making disciples, in living where He wants me to live, and in obeying Him. I think a lot of times people really are trying to figure out, how can I be close to God? How can I have God's presence in my life? And we got to remember that His presence is promised, but as we're making disciples. If we're going to ignore His commandments, how can we expect to feel close to God? How can we expect to see God working moment by moment, working through us? But finally, really, the grace that motivates me to live at Sherman Hills is the grace of Jesus Christ and who Jesus is. Can I talk about Jesus for a minute and how amazing He is? Jesus Christ is who I want to be like. And Jesus left power and privilege and comfort and security of heaven, and He moved into the hood. He became one of us. He looked at humanity suffering from the consequences of their sin, and He said, I'm going to suffer those consequences as well. I'm going to become one of them. I'm going to take on all of their struggles, all of their sufferings, all of their trials, even though I don't deserve it. I didn't cause any of this problem, but I'm going to take it on myself, and through that, salvation is going to come. I think Jesus Christ is amazing. The way He loved us, the way He became one of us, Now he's one of our brothers, as the Bible says. And I think it's amazing how Jesus had compassion on us and came to us. And I want to be like that. I don't want to separate myself from people who are suffering. I don't want to separate myself from the needs of people. But I want to jump in with them and experience those needs and those struggles along with them, because that's what Jesus did.